1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins in a row for the Seattle Kraken. And at this rate, I'm going to need another hand pretty soon. But for now, I think we'll keep this one closed and just knock on some wood. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome to Kraken R&R, where we're getting used to a new Kraken normal, and Seattle coming out on top once again, this time defeating the Nashville Predators at home 5-1. And like I just said, it becomes their 5th win now in a row. Yes, 5 wins in a row. Just feels so good to say. Other than that one Nashville goal and a potential injury to Alexiak, there's probably only one other thing that didn't go the way Kraken fans would have liked to see it go tonight. And we'll just get that out of the way right here. It is the fact that after 2 games of a good amount of time on ice to end the road trip, the only change to this lineup in tonight's game was that there's no Shane Wright. Instead, we get Carson Kuhlman with McCann still out with his injury. I don't really know what their obsession with not letting Wright play in Seattle is, but yeah, here we are. And yes, I know I still owe you a Shane Wright video, and that is going to happen probably actually here in the next couple of days with some days off for the Kraken coming up, and I've got some free time all of a sudden. So yeah, that's going to be happening here pretty soon, and especially now that it's maybe some of that frustration is coming back with him starting to get scratched again. That aside though, again, the rest of this night went incredibly well for the Kraken, and it started going well right out of the gate. As just 38 seconds into the game, the Kraken were already on the board. Not long after puck drop, obviously, and actually as the Kraken are going for their first line change of the game, Bjorkstrand drops off the puck to Burakovsky in the neutral zone, who circles out of the neutral zone back into the defensive end. And then as he's coming back into the neutral zone to try to start a breakout towards the offensive end, he finds Eberle, who's coming onto the ice to start his shift on the change. And Eberle just kind of carries the puck the rest of the way through the neutral zone, eventually getting to the offensive end, and with the defenseman in his face, fires off a shot from the outside and puts it into the back of the net. It just beats Saros clean, glove side, where, well, let's just be honest, Saros did not have a very good game tonight. This is definitely one he should have saved. Still, it doesn't find Saros' glove, instead finds the netting behind him, and the Kraken, less than a minute into the game, have the 1-0 lead. And although to be fair, I really don't think he had all that bad of a game in this one, in spite of what the plus-minus stat might tell you, but as we know, plus-minus isn't the greatest stat in the world, and sure, he didn't necessarily play this particular one perfectly, but this goal also was not on him by any means. Anyway, I did think it was kind of interesting who the defenseman was that forced this Jordan Eberle shot from the outside that was closing in on him. It was none other than old Seattle fan favorite, Jeremy Lauzon. I mean, maybe saying fan favorite is being a bit generous. He was, well, let's just say fans had a strong opinion of him while he was here. Some anyway. But I think that even the people who weren't the biggest Lauzon fans can admit that this is definitely one Saros should have stopped. And anyway, regardless of all that, from a Kraken point of view, this is exactly the type of start that you want to see to a game. I mean, sure, it's great that the Kraken are up 1-0, but even just the fact that they got into the offensive end and took a shot off on goal when they had an opportunity to. Sure, for Eberle, it may not have been the highest percentage chance that this shot would actually go in. It's much more likely that the save is made, but even in that case, you're either going to at least get the puck into the offensive end, maybe get a rebound for another guy like Beniers coming on the other side to get that rebound and get a better shot off, or Saros will catch it being glove side, and you'll get a face-off in the offensive end. Either way, it's better than just carrying it into the corner and seeing what happens and fighting for it along the boards. Plus, when you take that shot off on goal, there's always the chance that the goalie will mess up and the puck will just go in like it does here. And besides, for Eberle in particular, who's had enough already this season, high danger scoring chances stolen from him by great saves, he's due a couple of these not so great scoring chances going in. And then not only does he get the goal here, but a couple minutes later on what I think was his very next shift, he gets a much better scoring chance and fires off a quick backhand shot trying to catch Saros off guard. I think he actually does catch him off guard, but it ends up going off of the post and staying out. Still, it was just that close to becoming a second goal in the first few minutes of this game for Eberle. But even in spite of all this excitement for the Kraken down at the Nashville end of the ice, and especially after these first couple of minutes, it does have to be mentioned that for the rest of the first period, or the majority of it anyway, and a good chunk of the second period especially, the Predators spent a lot more time in the Kraken end, and at the very least, certainly outchanced the Kraken. Now, a lot of those chances did end up not actually making it to the net and being shots on goal, but still, the defense for the Kraken, really for the second game in a row, was not the sharpest that we've seen it in this winning streak. However, unlike what we've seen in the past with the Kraken, especially last season, when they have these periods of time that they don't necessarily look totally focused or organized in the defensive end and are turning over the puck here and there, they were able to recover from it very well pretty much every time. Again, sure, their first touch may not have been the best, and trying to create breakouts the other way certainly weren't particularly sharp, but they were able to recover to the center of the ice and prevent those bad plays around the outside from turning into good chances in the inside for the Predators. When the Predators did get the puck to the inside, they weren't able to get clean shots off, and when they were able to get shots off a turnover, they were pretty much all limited to the outside, and oftentimes a block was made, or a stick getting in front of the shot before they can really get it off. So was it perfect defensive play from the Kraken? No, far from it. It was still pretty sloppy, but again, they were able to recover from that sloppiness and prevent it from turning into constant grade A chances on net for the Predators. It's also worth mentioning that the Predators weren't the sharpest themselves in the offensive end, so that certainly helped the Kraken as well. And besides, regardless of how much time you spend in your defensive end of the ice, when you do get your chances at the offensive end, even if they're relatively few and far between, if you can capitalize on enough of them, then it hardly even matters. And that's just what the Kraken are able to do really throughout this first period, and it all starts here right around the 7-minute mark. Following a pretty extended stay that the Predators have in the Kraken end of the ice, eventually Seattle's able to break it out through the neutral zone, which was a bit of an issue throughout this game. It turns quickly into a 2-on-1 in this case, though, for Burakovsky and Geekie. Burakovsky gets it across to Geekie. Geekie fires off the shot, and the save is made by Saros. A very nice save at that. Easily his best of the game, and honestly, one of only maybe 2 good saves that he had. Though, to be honest, he wasn't really in this game for long enough to make a lot more good saves. And even more unfortunately for him, this particular great save doesn't end up mattering for very long, as Geekie picks up the rebound down in the corner. Quickly, it ends up back to Burakovsky, who gets it up through into the slot, passes it off to Borgen. Borgen fires off a shot, and through his crossing screen, it finds the back of the net. Saros, I don't know if he had much of a chance on this one with all the chaos happening in front of him. Still, it's a 2-0 lead for the Kraken, and we're not even halfway through the first. Within seconds, though, of the Kraken taking this 2-0 lead, they send the Predators to their first power play of the game, and for the Preds, a chance to pull to within 1, and again, considering they've spent more time in the offensive end and have had more scoring chances, if they can pull to within 1 here, getting a point on the board, still less than halfway through the first, honestly, they're not in that bad of a spot. Fortunately for the Kraken, though, not only is the penalty kill on a heater, the power play for the Predators is one of the worst in the league and having a pitiful start to the season. So it turns out to be a pretty easy kill for the Kraken, now 12 in a row since that Vancouver Canuck game, and all 12 having come in this win streak, which they would add a 13th to later on in the game as well. And on top of this being a good kill for the Kraken here in the first that doesn't even allow a shot on goal for Nashville, they're also able to use it to at least even out play over the next few minutes and prevent the Predators from building momentum back again. Though eventually, Nashville is able to reestablish in the offensive end and get another series of chances off on net. Fortunately, Jones once again was up to the task, and the Kraken were keeping pretty much everything to the outside, and anything that tried to get to the inside, they weren't allowing clean shots off on Jones. And eventually, just like last time, the Kraken do survive this, get the puck down to the other end, and this time it's a Nashville turnover as they just straight up pass the puck off the boards to Wennberg. Wennberg gets to Burakovsky. Burakovsky next to the net with nobody between him and Saros, or really even the vicinity to challenge him. He's able to just hold the puck on his stick, showing incredible patience, waiting for Saros to commit to trying to make a save. And when Saros does commit, Burakovsky just wraps it around his toe and plops it into the net to give the Kraken the 3-0 lead. So for Burakovsky to this point, just to recap, that's already 2 primary assists and a goal of his own in the first period, and there's still a good chunk of time that he could add on to that. And even for the Kraken alone, this is already the best first period that they've had in franchise history, at least as far as the scoreboard is concerned. Sure, the actual play that's led to it might not feel quite as lopsided as what the scoreboard reflects, but 3-0 is, again, a very good start to this game, and it only gets better just a few seconds later. Beniers and the Kraken do end up winning the ensuing faceoff, though again, that was a bit of an issue for Seattle in this one, as they only end up winning 19-27 faceoffs won for the Predators, so yeah, still some improvement that needs to be done there. And even though they do win this faceoff, the puck actually ends up down at their end, where the Predators end up getting a couple more chances on goal. It doesn't last very long for them in that end of the ice, though, as Seattle's able to get it back down to the other end, and just over a minute after Burakovsky made it 3-0, the Predators turn it right back over. This time, a turnover forced by Donato as he's hounding the defenseman that has the puck. Still, he makes an ill-advised handle of it that ends up going right to Eberle in the slot. Wide open, Eberle fires off a shot, top corner and in, and it's 4-0. Eberle's got 2 already on the night. And just like that, Eberle, who has the only hat trick in franchise history, is definitely on hat trick watch the rest of the night. And not only that, but as a team now with this 4th goal in the first period, it is easily the best first period, again on the scoreboard, that the Kraken have ever had. The only first period in which they've scored 4 goals, regardless of the fact that they didn't allow one in as well. And only the second time in franchise history that they've even scored 4 goals in any period. The other one being when they hosted the Detroit Red Wings at home last year. Those 4 goals coming in the second period of that game. And again, just as far as this 4th goal is concerned, while it does end up being an unassisted goal for Eberle as the puck never touches another Kraken stick before Eberle ends up shooting it in, I think you could give kind of an honorary assist here to Donato, who kind of forces the turnover in the first place. Mercifully for the Predators, this is where the Kraken onslaught would stop in the first period, and we would get to the first intermission with the score still 4-0 Kraken, and this game feeling very in hand. Now, this is where, and it was talked about post-game by Burakovsky, Eberle, and Hackstall, that with a 4-0 lead and it seems like everything going your way in that first period, it can be sometimes challenging to keep yourself fully focused and in the game, and especially have that same urgency and mentality of attacking going into a second period where the other team definitely is going to want to make up for what was a pretty embarrassing showing there in the first. Also worth mentioning that with that 4th goal, Saros had ended up getting chased, so the Predators were ready to try to make up for what just happened. Of course, I say that, and it is what you would expect, but right out of the gates in the second, the Preds don't necessarily show that urgency to make up for what happened in the first, as it's the Kraken who get the first very good scoring opportunity of the period. It's Wennberg from right in front of the net, no one in front of him other than Lankinen. He gets the shot off. Lankinen is able to make the save. Still, the rebound comes out to the other side to a wide open Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand fires off a shot at a completely empty net, but the Preds are able to keep that one out. It's a beautiful save by Jankowski, the forward for the Predators, number 17, as he's able to put his knee down to the ice and stop Bjorkstrand from making it 5-0 Kraken early on in the second. And it's with those saves, or technically speaking, that save and then that block, that the Predators are able to get things turned around and show the urgency that they should have to, respond to the first period that the Kraken had against them. And for Seattle, this is where things do start to look pretty sloppy and unfocused in the defensive end. Again, like the first, they were able to at least recover from some of the sloppy play, but they were actually starting to allow a little bit more of the shots and chances that the Preds got to sneak towards the middle of the ice. Still, Jones was playing incredibly well in net and stopping anything that did come his way. He had to make a couple of pretty nice saves here in this second period. There is one, though, that does end up getting past him, and it actually isn't while the Predators have a setup in the offensive end. It comes on a breakaway from Forsberg. He actually blocks a Borgen shot up by the point. The shot then goes off of him and past Borgen, and unfortunately, with the puck now past Borgen and Forsberg already facing that direction where Borgen now has to turn around, Forsberg is able to beat Borgen to the puck, get on the breakaway, and while Borgen's almost able to recover and get back to try to at least contest the shot with his stick, Forsberg gets a fairly clean shot off. And if there's one guy on the Nashville Predators that you don't want getting a breakaway and a clean shot, yeah, it'd probably be Forsberg. He does beat Jones to get the Predators on the board to make it 4-1, which would end up being their only goal of the game. The Predators do end up getting another power play here in the second, but really they don't press as heavily as they do early on in this first period. They never really get much momentum off, or sorry, second period, but they never really get much momentum off of this goal. We end up getting to the third period where the Kraken maintain that 4-1 lead going into it, and then maintain it pretty much throughout, playing much better in the defensive end, but still very much playing not to lose, having a tough time transitioning cleanly into the offensive end, which again didn't really seem like it was their objective in this third period. It was really just try not to allow Nashville to get back into the game, which they're able to do. Eventually the Predators do pull the goaltender, which with a 3-goal lead and only at that point like 2.5 minutes left in the game seemed like I don't know, maybe as a statement at where the Predators feel like their season is, that they really just needed something to happen, even if it wasn't likely. And the Kraken, with an empty net and Eberle sitting on 2 goals, tried desperately to get Eberle that hat trick. Dunn got a pass up to Eberle, well, who was pretty much cherry picking up by the blue line in the 6-on-5. Unfortunately, the puck goes under Eberle's stick and bounces out and away for Nashville to go pick up. Dunn was very disappointed, kind of had his stick on his head just like this, like, oh, that was the hat trick. Eberle also kind of disappointed. He also ends up having another pass go just out of his reach. He goes to the bench, and while he wasn't going to be on the bench, I don't think for very long, because he and Wennberg were standing up and getting ready to come back on the ice after just a few seconds. As they're getting ready to come back on, Tanev is able to chip a puck past Forsberg, get mostly past Forsberg, though he ends up tripping, and, well, this isn't necessarily where most scoring plays would start, with your offensive player who's about to score face down on the ice with his feet above his head, but Tanev is able to recover from this position, get to the puck, and without a goaltender, it's not hard for him to put it into the net, and that's where the Kraken finished this game off, winning it 5-1. And yes, I know we kind of rushed through that second and third period, but honestly, from that early push that the Predators had in the second period, and I guess their 1 goal about halfway through the second period, there really wasn't all that much more to the game. The Kraken were pretty much playing it not to lose at that point, since they have the healthy lead, and while the Predators were doing a pretty good job of forechecking in this game and creating opportunities, they were having a hard time actually following up on those opportunities, even when the Kraken were turning over the puck in their defensive end. Which again was in part due to the Kraken playing well in the inside of the ice, maybe not great along the boards, but preventing high danger scoring chances, and Jones continuing his hot streak in net. I suppose it is also worth mentioning, since we again skipped through most of the third period, or pretty much the whole thing, the Kraken did end up getting 1 power play about midway through the third period, although the crowd wanted a couple more, and honestly there were a couple missed calls that I think the rest just kind of saw the game was out of hand and wanted to get it over with. Still, that power play, while they do hold the offensive zone pretty well and got a few chances off on net, as they kind of admitted to, or Eberle talked about it in the presser at the end of the game, they were really just trying to, if anything, kill those 2 minutes and not allow any shorthanded breakaways the other way. Sure, you still want to try to score, but you're only going to take shots if you know that it can't turn into a breakaway going back the other direction. So basically a much more conservative power play, like we kind of saw all of last season, though in this particular instance it's actually, makes sense, unlike, well, pretty much all of last season. So one more time in the end to recap this game, the first period is honestly a first period that we kind of saw a lot at the beginning of last season, especially, where there's a quick goal that you'd like to see your goaltender stop, then maybe a weird one through a screen that's kind of a tough one for him to stop, and then your defense just kind of hands the other team 2 more scoring opportunities. Just like that, you're in a big hole, and even if you outpossess the other team the rest of the game, they play solidly enough, maybe a bit sloppy in the defensive end for the Kraken again, but they played well where it counted on the inside and prevented high danger scoring chances. You're just really never able to get anything going if you're the Predators. Again, they did exactly what they needed to by preventing the high danger scoring chances, and it also helps to have a goaltender who's playing very well in net. Martin Jones, by the way, stopping 24 of 25, so continuing with a 960 save percentage. His statistical rebound in this dad era Martin Jones that we are just absolutely loving here in Seattle. Which, by the way, since we're on the topic, being at the game was clearly something noticed by the fans, and fans showing their appreciation to Jones for especially how he played on that road trip and really over these last few games, getting a very loud ovation when he was announced as part of the starting lineup. So yeah, fans are enjoying seeing some consistent, very strong goaltending from Jones in net. And the Kraken are building off of it and winning some games because of it. With that being said, though, when it comes to the Kraken 3 stars in this game, at least for me anyway, while I do think Jones is certainly worthy of an honorable mention, I'm actually not going to end up arguing with the official 3 stars chosen, and also not arguing with the order either. So getting the first star is Andrei Burakovsky with his 3 points in this game, the 2 assists on the first 2 goals, and then scoring the third one. Plus, he also set up what could have easily been a couple of other goals on top of that, setting up Geeky for what could have been a goal. He still ends up getting a primary assist on the Borgen goal just a second later. He also had what would have been a primary assist on a chance that Bjorkstrand had somewhere in the middle of the first period there. Bjorkstrand, again, robbed there. He ends up getting robbed twice in this game. A little bit snake bit that Bjorkstrand, but he's getting some assists as well. The second star then, I think pretty obviously, goes to Jordan Eberle with 2 goals in the game, and if he had been able to find the empty net to get the hat trick, probably would have gotten the first star. I mean, sure, it would have just been an empty net goal that he adds on, but if you get the second franchise hat trick, especially after you got the first and so far only one, I think you're definitely worthy of a first star. Still, very obviously, the second star in this game had a chance or 2 to get that hat trick legitimately in the first period on top of the, empty netter chance that he had at the end of the game. And then the third star in this one would be Will Borgen. I got to pick somebody, especially from the blue line, considering that, while it may not have been, again, the most structured defense that the Kraken threw out there and presented on ice, they were at least able to consistently rebound from any turnovers or bad decisions they made in the defensive end and block shots, or at least prevent those high scoring chances. Borgen was definitely a part of that, having a couple of very nice recoveries from even turnovers that other players made. Plus, he has a goal, and, well, sure, he was the guy that Forsberg beat to get the 1 goal for Nashville. It kind of was just an unfortunate bounce, and between Borgen and Forsberg, I think we know who's going to win that one more times than not. But feel free to let me know what you think down in the comment section below, who you would pick as the 3 stars if you would pick anyone different from these 3. I can't imagine there's too many people that wouldn't have both Burakovsky and Eberle as the first 2. And other than that, other thoughts on the game, I will say the one gripe I would have about this game, other than the things we've talked about, would be that there was one series where the Predators got a couple of very big hits off on Beniers, and there wasn't really any kind of response from the Kraken, which, I'm not saying that they should go and fight because Beniers got hit or anything like that. They were very clean hits. We'd like to see maybe one of the defensemen just respond with a hit of their own on those guys, just to let them know that you're not going to just get away with free big, even if clean, big hits on the star young player for Seattle. Oh, and yes, also certainly worth mentioning, I almost forgot, but the third period for the Kraken was played without Jamie Oleksiak. He didn't end up coming back to the bench to start the third and never showed up on the bench at all. It was so far an undisclosed injury. It was, Hackstall just said it was made clear by the trainers that he wasn't going to be available for the third. He didn't have any updates after the game, so we'll just have to wait and see there. If Oleksiak can't go in a couple days' time, then, or I guess 3 days' time, that does mean that we'll get to see the first of Cale Fleury this season. Been the one guy that's rostered but hasn't played, so definitely not ideal. Obviously, that D-core has been pretty solid for the Kraken so far to start this season, and you wouldn't like to see that flow that they've had been going challenged. But it happens. There's very little chance you're going to get through a full season without at least one injury to a defender, so hopefully he's not out for too long. I didn't notice anything in the second period that looked like it would be a long-term injury. He did take one kind of awkward hit away from the play along the boards that he seemed a bit upset by. I thought it was just because it was a bit after the play, but I don't remember actually seeing him after that, so maybe that's what it was. Anyway, I think at this point we will call it for this one. Again, partied up in the comment section for the 5th win in a row for the Kraken, improving that record to 8-4-2 and solidly in second place in the Pacific at this point. With that, until next time, thank you very much if you have made it to this point in the video. If you did like or enjoy it, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate using them. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.